spent. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate anyone joining me tonight. I'm a little late, but for a good reason. 7:14 on the West Coast, Pacific Standard Time, as some might say. This is HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. So let's get into it because we are already running late. So a theory and a narrative, I guess all just a theory, right? Something that doesn't exist that people are trying to put out there. And that is this idea that the NBA, which all the talk the last week has been about tanking and the All-Star game, and it's gone into, should we get rid of the draft? Should we just, this is what I've been hearing a lot of. Should we get rid of the draft? Should we just allow teams, instead of 1 through 3rd, instead of having like the worst pick, you got the best chance to get the first player, you should be allotted X amount of money. So like, let's say the first team is $10 million for rookie contract. Second team is 9 point something, and it goes down, right? 1 to 30. And I've seen this and I'm like, well, I think that sounds stupid. And then I've also seen this take that goes right next to it, which is, oh, the draft doesn't incentivize anything. It just gives bad teams great players. That's unfair. Do people, when you say stuff out loud, like there's a joke, and Tony says this a lot, like bring back shame. Like when you say that out loud, you really say that with a straight face and think to yourself, this was really smart. This was the right thing to say. Listen, no sport is more popular than the NFL. And I'm stealing what I'm about to say because this is not my own thoughts, but I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I want to get the point across. I got it through Peter Rosenberg. I apologize to he got it through his dad, who got it through a story. And it was basically, and I was going to trigger some people, the NFL, which is the most popular sport by a mile, is a socialist construct. There's revenue sharing. So even if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're one of the biggest draws in the world, you're the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, you're one of the biggest draws in TV, there's revenue sharing. Everybody gets the same. And the worst team in the league gets the best draft pick. You are rewarded with the best chance to fix, because what teams and leagues actually want, and I believe this wholeheartedly, maybe this is the child in me watching sports, you don't want, yes, it's great to watch a dynasty. I enjoyed watching, if you are old enough and you got to see Kobe, Shaq with the Lakers, if you got to see Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, I consider that a dynasty with Popovich and the Spurs. If you got to see the Miami Heat, LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh, you got to see the Warriors, Steph, KD, Clay, dynasties are awesome. Factually, they are. Numbers-wise, support it. People tune in and watch dynasties. Leagues also don't want a quarter or a third of their teams being dumpster fires. That's why you give these teams the ability to get great players into the building. Why would you want a market? Otherwise, why would you put a team in that market if you never wanted them to be good? Because here's the problem with the quote-unquote, let's give the worst team just the most money because that's going to incentivize the guys. Have we not learned with the All-Star game that you can't put money in front of these guys who have access to tens of millions in Nike ads, tens of millions in their own contracts? Like, they can make so much money outside their own NBA contract. LeBron makes more off the court than he does on the court. He makes $51 million a year on the court. And they get, oh, well, that's LeBron. Steph, the same thing. KD, the same thing. Anthony Edwards, one a newer superstar. Jokic is a little weird in the Europe. Jokic is a little weird because most of the stuff, he goes home and he doesn't want to be in the celebrity space as much. But Giannis just signed a deal with a gambling company. We're going to get to that. Like, these guys can make so much money just saying, oh, think of like Cooper Flag. Think about it. How much money do you think Cooper Flag is going to be able to get off advertisements alone? How he's played as a rookie. He's going to make more next year off advertisements and off shoe sales than he will off money he's actually paid from the NBA. Guys, if are given a chance, yes, you want to see stacking teams? Imagine stacking teams and guys can come in the league and they're on team-friendly contracts for the first 4 to 5 years. Because the guys that grew up in California and grew up Laker fans, they're going to want to go play for the Lakers. The teams going to the Miami, like, you're going to have horrible out of balance. Yeah. Oh, what about National Signing Day for college? Because that's the other argument for it. Is like, well, college basketball and college football do that. You just go sign with whoever you want. And I'm not here to say that college sports are not drastically popular. I'm not. They obviously are. They are incredibly popular. They have a ton of success. But they are not the same as professional sports. They're just not. Think about it this way. And I want to make sure I get this number right. The national championship game. 30 million people watched this year. Indiana versus Miami. Okay? I just for the context. The Super Bowl, 124 million. College sports and professional sports. And you can love college sports. I'm not here to shit on college sports. But they are not in the same league or the same category as far as how popular they are and the demand for both of them. So when we're talking about, oh, let's have a no draft, why reward? Of course you reward the teams because we want a chance. If I'm just born in a city or a state and that becomes my team because that's my hometown team, why am I screwed forever because I'm born in Utah versus LA or I'm born in New Orleans versus Miami? Like, it's just one of the dumbest things I can actually think of. It's insane. Because you want to talk about guys who already want to go to these big markets. Now they get the chance to do it right out of high school. No. No NBA draft is stupid. Not here to apologize. No NBA draft is just dumb. It's a bad idea. It should never happen. Let's move on to something else that's infuriating, and I hate this story. There's a story that, and you can already use context clues and get to this conclusion, which is why I think it makes it even more infuriating. Gambling companies supposedly are upset with Adam Silver and the NBA due to the tanking because teams are resting players but not disclosing it. They're just not playing them for quarters or halves or even games at a time. And when you have gambling companies that are trying to put these over-under bets and no one's disclosing this information, it destroys the integrity of the bet. The integrity in gambling. Think about that one. I don't recommend anybody gamble. There was already a line that I think personally to me, I think it's a shame that ESPN is involved in gambling. I think it's a shame that all these sports leagues are involved in gambling. I think it's insane that a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo can partner with a gambling company, an unregulated, unlicensed gambling company who's not even allowed in all 50 states because of how just off the wall they do their stuff. And they're allowed to make actual bets on will Giannis Antetokounmpo be traded, and Giannis makes it to the trade deadline. He's not traded, and the day after he announces, by the way, I'm a partner. Like, that's insane. The other problem with this is there's already a sketchy line of how involved is gambling in professional sports. And yes, if you want to be a cynic, and I think this is probably true, they've always kind of existed. They've always been in the background. They've always been around. But you are supposed to separate what the gambling and the other activities that go along with your sport and the actual product itself. This is what's supposed to separate. I started watching wrestling this last month. Like, actively watching wrestling. Watch WrestleMania. Not WrestleMania, I'm sorry. But I watching Raw. I watched the Brawl a couple weeks ago. what is separates wrestling from from what we consider actual sports, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, is that they are what is real and what is fake, and at least the perception of it. I don't go into a wrestling match going, ah, man, I was cheated because I was rooting for this guy and he didn't win. It's rigged. It literally is. If I go into a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game and I want to root for my hometown team or my favorite team, I might feel like I got screwed. I might feel like it was rigged because maybe a call didn't go my way or something happened. But the idea that gambling companies are just there saying, hey, man, we don't like the way this looks. Like the gambling companies are telling you they don't like the way this looks. That's insane. That's objectively insane. Like there's no way this should be allowed to be publicized, should be out there, even if you already kind of think it's true in the back of your head. Adam Silver's had a bad week. This is even worse. This might be the most damning thing about it. Again, you have a player, a prominent player in your league, partnered with a gambling company. You are partnered. Your league is partnered with gambling companies. And now we get, well, the gambling companies don't like how this looks. Now what happens if something changes? How much power do they have? And you can't let that line get blurry. You cannot let the gambling companies come out, put out statements, or have reports in the background, and then something changes. And it just vindicates how much power they really have. Again, you might already think they have the power, and that may be true, but you can't put that message out to the public that, yeah, gambling companies run all of this. Yeah, we all know money rules the world. We all know money's the way things happen. But in a sport that is supposed to be an authentic experience, I always call sports our true reality television. I can't have my reality television and know the scriptwriter is motivated by gambling millions of dollars every night. It's an awful look for the NBA. It's an awful look for Adam Silver. I hate the story. I hate the idea. I hate the premise, everything about it. And now I've started the first 15 minutes of the show, and I'm already in a bad mood. I love talking about sports, and I've had to talk about this idiotic idea of no draft, and now gambling companies running the world. And I've lost all my hair. What the fuck am I going to do, man? Got a lot more to talk about today. That's all I got for the first segment. We got a lot more to talk about today. This is HardFoul Radio. I'll be back momentarily. Oopsies. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. So I did notice this, and I do think it's interesting. Now, this could make, why would he say that, but it's low-hanging fruit, and I think there's a better one to go after. Jokic kind of gets a pass. We just don't view, like, in terms of all-time NBA greats, and I absolutely think he's in that category, he does get a pass on certain things, and I feel like none of the others have, excluding, like, I don't really know how much Wilt and Bill Russell criticism there was real world criticism of Bill Russell, but like there just weren't sports shows and the media didn't exist in the same manner that it is today. We talked about the All-Star game, and Wemby was very apparent about, I'm going to be energetic, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to play defense, I'm going to try, like I'm going to give the effort that everyone's complaining that we don't have. Anthony Edwards responded, some of the old guys responded. Jokic really didn't look like he wanted to be there still. And it brought me back to, KD had an interesting weekend for a handful of reasons. But when Kevin Durant might be odd at times in terms of, like, you might think the burner accounts are odd or his behavior is odd, and that's fair. But Kevin Durant's pretty honest. And he's pretty insightful when it comes to basketball, the culture of basketball, the culture of people watching basketball, which is weird that that's a thing, but it is. And when it comes to, like Kevin Durant said this during the media day, which is, why are you guys just looking at us and condemning us, being the old guys, KD, Steph, LeBron, and saying we ruined the All-Star game, when the game started to go downhill, when they were basically all past 30. Like, they've all played forever. And so it's tough, and they're such big superstars, not just in basketball, but in like the culture of not just on the court, but the culture of basketball. They're all-time legendary superstar players. They're all extremely famous, like next level famous, kind of famous I never want to be because it's kind of scary. But the young guys, while they were young, like Luka got into the All-Star game very young, didn't really try hard. Jokic got into the All-Star game pretty young, didn't really try hard. So why are you just going after us and you're not going after the European guys? Giannis kind of tried 1 year, didn't so much after that. Like, Giannis was young, Luka was young, Jokic was young. Why are you not going after them? And then you watch this game where people are trying. It's one of the best All-Star games in years, over a decade, some would say. And Jokic is just kind of out there, and Luka's just kind of out there, and Giannis obviously is hurt, so he's not out there at all. But yeah, he's got a valid point. The younger European guys and the European guys in general, they're not really pushing it forward. And like I said yesterday, Adam Silver can only do so much when it comes to the All-Star game. You can put in different formats, you can put in different games, activities, skill competitions, but if the guys just don't give a rip, it's not going to be exciting. Why was the three-point contest exciting? Like, three-point contest is something that they don't have to risk injury, so everybody is like, they're actively all trying to make shots. And one of the coolest things that came out of it was Dame wins it and then reveals, I don't know if it's a text message or I don't know if it's a group chat or like something on IG, and he reveals him and Steph are already talking about next year, and Steph wants it to be at least 4 of the competitors, Dame, Steph, Clay, and I'm blanking on the 4th, I apologize. But it was like some of the greatest shooters we've ever seen. These guys care about the three-point competition. They want to compete. They want to participate. Adam Silver can't force Steph Curry to participate in this. Adam Silver can't force Klay Thompson to care. Klay Thompson has made several $100 million playing professional basketball, has 4 titles, and is currently dating Meg Thee Stallion. And you can't force that man to be like, I need you to care about the three-point competition. He either does or he doesn't. That's his reality. He either does or he doesn't. So let's just be very clear. Again, Adam can only do so much. And I ripped Adam today to start. I defended him a little bit yesterday. I ripped him to start the show today. I think I'm fair. The things that I think he actually has impact on, like, again, a prominent superstar player being involved, a partner of a gambling company, I think you could do something about that, Adam. I don't think you do something about this. But I bring that all back to say is like, Jokic is getting a little bit of a pass in a way we just don't see normal superstars do. Like, and again, this is low-hanging fruit. That's why I don't want to bring it, and I'm already going to go at him for something else. But Stephen A. coming out, LeBron's in year 23. Now, he is still an easy talking point. He is still easy clicks. If you just say LeBron James, something controversial, it's going to get clicks, especially when you're already on a major network. But for Stephen A. to go out and say LeBron James ruined the dunk contest because he didn't want to compete. Well, what about Nikola Jokic? LeBron didn't compete in the dunk contest 15 years ago after saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it next year. Did he lie? Yeah. Welcome to the world, guys. LeBron James lies to us sometimes. Supremely talented, rich, ultra successful people, sometimes they lie to the public. I know. It's shocking. It broke my heart, too, the first time. But to go on ESPN and say LeBron James ruined the dunk contest, it's 2026. LeBron is in year 23. Nikola Jokic is in his prime. He might be the MVP again this year after already winning 3 other times. Why are you not talking about, what about his energy levels? We're going to get to Stephen A. here in a second. But I do think it's interesting that Jokic does get the kind of pass he does. Maybe that's because we don't really know a ton about him. Like, we know he's great at basketball and he likes horses. That's pretty much the extent of what we know about Nikola Jokic. And some of that's intentional, and I don't begrudge the man for wanting privacy. He's allowed that, even though he's a superstar. He is allowed privacy. He's allowed a personal life. That's all true. But if we're ripping LeBron, who's played 20-plus years and done incredible more for the NBA than almost anyone to ever walk the planet, we could say, hey, Jokic, in the first All-Star game in a decade where a lot of guys are trying, you could give some effort too. Just a thought. Moving on to my favorite part of the show, why would he say that? Stephen A., we got a lot to discuss. There's 2 things here that I think are both asinine, and they're just both right up Stephen A. Smith's alley, and it's why I didn't want to do it today. It's probably going to lead the show tomorrow, but it is why basketball media is in such a dump. Stephen A. Smith is the reason why basketball media is in such a dump. His voice is still too big and too prevalent for the kind of dumb stuff that he says. I have 2 of them today. The first one is, I always say this, Stephen A.'s first iconic moment on television was him ripping Kwame Brown. If you don't know it, I'd be shocked. If you do know it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hands are too small, don't gotta move, bum, 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 boom, boom, boom. We all know the speech. That was Stephen A.'s breakthrough iconic moment. And ever since then, I really feel like he's been trying to chase that moment. And he can sit there and say, I've done this, I've done that. And you have, Stephen A. Congratulations. But that's by far your that was the moment that transcended and jumped you into superstardom in the sports media space. You've obviously taken that. You've done First Take. You've done NFL stuff. You obviously do the NBA. You've done other stuff. Congrats. And it still comes out when you see stuff like this morning where he goes, as long as First Take is on the air, Ben Simmons is going to catch strays. Why? Why do you have a personal vendetta? Did you pay Ben Simmons? Did the money come out of your pocket? Why do you have a personal vendetta against Ben Simmons where you're going to make sure people know he is the biggest heist in the history of basketball? When it was relevant, fine. When he wasn't playing and there were all these issues accumulating with the Sixers, valid to talk about, valid to discuss. It was topical. It went with the times. It was reasonable. What do you have against Ben Simmons now? Ben Simmons isn't relevant as far as a basketball player, and he's not even relevant enough not trying to be disrespectful here, but he's not even a good context for most arguments and most conversations. But you just gotta get your jab in. You gotta make sure, as long as First Take is here, he will always catch strays. Sounds like a you thing. Sounds like you're upset. Sounds like you might have issues. Are you good? Again, when people say, and I know you just went on Gilbert Arenas' thing and talked to Skip Bayless and y'all made buddy about the fact of, well, we didn't ruin sports media, we elevated it. Sure. You elevated it into a space of really loud asshole opinions where, to quote J. Cole, you can get popping because you either dick riding or hating. And we know the people that you do both for. And let's also talk about this, Stephen A. I thought this was insane. I was really gonna stay here with just the need to just constantly attack people that are not relevant to the conversation because, again, you keep chasing this Kwame Brown moment that transformed your life. Kawhi had a great all-star performance. Objective, like there's no other way around. There's a great all-star performance. Stephen A. goes on and says, well, I want to see this in April. I don't care about that. Well, then what do you care about, Stephen A? Because you rip teams for tanking and not taking the regular season seriously, and yet you won't validate the regular season by giving it any kind of meaning in the way that you talk about the game, discuss the game, break down the game. You complained about the All-Stars and how much they've ruined the All-Star game. And then a guy is trying, scores a bunch of points, is playing defense, and you're like, well, I don't care about that either. Show me in April. And don't you think it's a little weird for a guy? It's not like, again, I'm trying to be respectful here, but it's not like it's James Harden, who's got multiple postseasons where we're like, okay, yeah, he needs to be better. He hasn't stepped up. He actually played down. This is a multiple-time champion who has led a franchise all the way to the top. So we don't care about the regular season and the way that we're going to cover the game. Then we don't care about the All-Star game, but we're going to make sure we complain about both. I hate what they're making a mockery of the regular season. Don't you think you make a mockery of it in the way that you cover it? And I'm going to expand on this more tomorrow because it's not just you, but today this is where this segment, this is for you. But there's more than just you. This isn't just your problem. But you are a loud voice in it. So you don't care about the regular season. You don't care about the All-Star game, but you want to complain about the players not caring about both. And then you want to only care about titles, but you don't want to care about, you want to care about how he plays in April. What if he plays great in April and loses? What if the Clippers make the playoffs? Kawhi averages for a series 30 points, plays great defense, but his team loses. Well, if it loses in the first round, how could you lose in the first round? If it's losing the second round, you won a playoff series, but what more else? Get to the conference championship, man, you got close, but you still can't quite deliver. Or you go to the finals and it's, well, you lost in the finals again. What is success in your mind? What is acceptable in your mind? Is only one team allowed to have a great season or feel good about themselves? The way you cover, the way you talk about the game, the way you express yourself. The only person who can feel good about themselves right now in the NBA is SGA, his teammates, the Thunder front office. Everybody else, horrible. Not good enough. You can have opinions, and even if you want to be critical, you can be critical without downplaying everything. That's not exactly win a title, have parades, pop champagne. Like, there's more than one way to do this. And when you criticize at every single point, and then you talk about players not caring, and you criticize them for not caring, but you won't even cover the game in a way where you care about a regular season game. Why don't you care about the Tuesday night game where a guy has a great performance? Why don't you care about the guys who have put these historically great regular seasons together? I remember growing up and the Spurs, one of the stats you always heard about the Spurs and the Mavericks for that matter, and the Suns there for a little bit in the mid-2000s, 50-plus wins several years in a row. That was an accomplishment. It meant something. It had value. Now you win 50 games. Who gives a rip? You lose in the second round of the playoffs, bum. You're never going to be this good. You're not, like, it's just, I hate the way that this has happened. And Stephen A., you play a large part in this to this day. This is not old comments. This happened 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago. Shots at Ben Simmons. I don't care about Kawhi's all-star performance. I want to see it in April. What are we doing? Why would you say that? HardFoul Radio will be back after this. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So the one football thing I really want to talk about today is Kenneth Walker. And right now it looks like it's 50-50 on if the Seahawks re-sign him. And where I think this is an interesting story. Obviously, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl MVP. But I think the bigger deal here is the fact that this is why, as much as people say, and I've been a proponent of this, building a super team around just a good quarterback is honestly better. Like, those are the teams we kind of honestly look back and remember as far as salary cap and go, those are actually the all-time teams. Like that Seattle team with Russ and the Legion of Boom and the good offensive line and some good receivers, like that was actually a super team. You go back to some of Brady's early years before he got paid. The Patriots always had players everywhere. Teddy Bruschi, Vince Wilfork, Ty Law, Asante Samuel, like go down the list. Like they brought in Rodney Harrison, Randy Moss, Welker, Ellen, a lot of guys, right? But this is why it's tough to keep those teams together. Because yes, you're not paying, and Sam Darnold's on a good contract. $30 million a year for a quarterback. I think it's like 33. It's great. Great value. But that value can get used up pretty quick. If Kenneth Walker feels like I'm the Super Bowl MVP, I deserve to get paid. Okay, pay him like the Super Bowl MVP running back, which would put him, it's not saying he's a top 5 running back, but given the time, place, and the situation, you'd be paid pretty much like a top 5 running back, okay? Devin Witherspoon, I had a case. I might be the best defensive player on the best defense in the NFL. Pay me like the best corner, okay? I got a defensive tackle, Leonard Williams. I also deserve to be paid. I'm one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Pay me. Charles Cross, I'm your franchise left tackle. Pay me. Oh, by the way, in another year, Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of the greatest starts to a career ever. Pay me. Yes, you get value off of having a quarterback on a good contract, but it's why that even though it sounds nice, build a super team around a quarterback. Once you pay 5, 6, max 7 guys, and even that's probably stretching it, depending on positions, it's tough. Look what the Niners had. The Niners had one of the best rosters in recent NFL history. Seriously. Trent Williams is paid. Christian McCaffrey was paid. Deebo Samuel got paid. Talanoa Hufanga. Greenlaw, I know Hufanga. I'm sorry, no, Hufanga did not get paid. I apologize. Greenlaw got a contract with them. He got a second contract with Denver. But Greenlaw got paid. Hufanga got hurt too early. Nick Bosa got paid. Fred Warner got paid. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we can't give everybody. And some of the lining up, some of the timing of this helped too. Like Trent wasn't paid the exact, like Bosa was still, like I think they were only all paid realistically about a year at the same time. And that was their last great chance. Because once you pay all those guys, it's like, okay, well, we can't keep doing this. We can't pay Fred top 5 linebacker money, Bosa top 5 pass rusher money, and I think at the time was the most pass rusher money for Bosa. And Warner might have even been the most linebacker money. And Tre'Davious Ward, who got paid, and paying Trent Williams, who was paid like a top 5 tackle, and pay Deebo Samuel, who got close to top 5 receiver money, and pay Christian McCaffrey, who got top 5 running back money, and pay, like, at some point, like, this is why it's unfair, but it will always be the best long-term financial to do what Kansas City did with Mahomes. And as much as I don't want to give Kansas City credit, Kansas City's $70 million over the cap right now, and they will have to do some roster pulling apart. It's not as simple as that. But because Mahomes, you can turn his money into a signing bonus, and they signed him for 10 years, $500 million, it gives him a lot of flexibility, and it's just better to have the premier quarterback because you get to make up for the deficiencies if you can draft decent. You don't have to draft great. And you got a great drafter in Seattle with John Schneider, who's knocked out 4 straight drafts since the Russell Wilson trade. But like just saying, have a dominant roster around a good quarterback, that shit adds up really quick. And if one thing goes wrong, one guy doesn't like what you offer him, in the case of Kenneth Walker, who allowed to get to free agency, this shit can all blow up just as quick. So when you have like the quarterback, yes, he makes a ton of money. He takes up a ton of your cap. But the reality is the Ravens are probably going to lose Tyler Linderbaum. if they re-sign Lamar Jackson to a deal where he's not as heavy against the cap, they can convert some of that into signing bonus. They're going to want and they're going to feel better about having Lamar Jackson than the Seahawks will ever feel about having Sam Darnold and a super team. Yes, they just won the Super Bowl, and that was a fantastic run, but long-term health of the franchise gets you the all-time quarterback. This is HardFoul Radio, but hour 2 with some NBA power rankings. And we are back for hour 2 of HardFoul Radio. Um, I've been thinking about this, and it's tough. So it's supposed to be Tuesday. It's supposed to do our power rankings. And I was going to do get good, get out, get good, get great, get out for the NBA. And I actually think I want to start today off with the conversation instead of just generic power rankings. Because we know tanking has been a problem, how do we assess who's really good in the NBA right now? I thought about this a lot today because I was going through and as I was making my rankings, and I'm like, okay, this team is really good. This team is okay. And you go through all of them, right? And you're just like, all right, who is really dominant in the NBA? Who is the best teams? And even with a team like Oklahoma City, how am I supposed to judge them when they beat a team like Utah, when they beat a team, who's another one that's tanking? The Pelicans weren't tanking, but the Pelicans are just bad. But that's kind of where I got this premise. I watch the Pelicans. I love watching the Pelicans. I might be one of the only people that love watching the Pelicans, but I do. It's my team. I love rooting for them. I love watching them play, even with the deficiencies that you see. It's tough, though, to say, hey, if we know 8 to 10 teams aren't actively trying to win games, and there's only really about, there's only that 12, some teams, hell, that are even up there. Like, how am I supposed to judge these? That's where I'm getting at. How am I supposed to judge you if you beat the teams that are actively trying to lose? Because then did you really accomplish something? Or are you just doing what you're supposed to do, which is beat up these teams who actively and truly do not want to win the game? How do I view this? How do I judge this? How am I supposed to understand what's going on? Am I supposed to say you're the best because you have the best record? Am I supposed to say you're the best because your players have the most accolades? How am I supposed to judge who's actually a great team in 2025, 2026? I believe now, do we do it just off comparison of when you play other great teams? I think a lot of people are doing that right now, and I'll be honest, where that messes me up. I think a lot of people think the Nuggets are the second best team. But I think they only believe that because they think the Nuggets actually can beat OKC in the playoffs, where even though San Antonio's had success, they feel like, are we ready to give San Antonio that edge? But I think San Antonio's been better than Denver. Dre's going to hate that opinion. But I think the Spurs have actually been better than Denver top to bottom this season. They're the 2 seed in the West. I don't know Jokic has missed time. But are we giving that because they have Jokic? That means they're the better team than the Spurs, who have just objectively been better this year? What about the Rockets? Like, the Rockets are the best rebounding team in the league. They theoretically have all the pieces. They have defenders. They have scorers. They have length. They have size. They have team speed. So am I supposed to rate them higher because I feel like they have all the pieces and they have the talent, and when you get to the playoffs, those are the things that I believe are going to stand out? Or do I rate them lower because the reality is I've watched them now for a month and a half and it just feels like something's wrong? And that's they've had their own opportunity to play teams that are tanking. They've had their own opportunity to play teams that aren't very good. They've had their own opportunity to, everybody's playing these bad teams. Or is it a team like the Hornets who truly have rebounded from what has been a decade plus of franchise obscurity and are finally playing good basketball with a guy who I was told and I believed you could not play winning basketball with in LaMelo Ball? Or is it the Cavs who we know they have a great defensive player in Evan Mobley. They're the number one offense in the sport. And they just got James Harden, who at least for the regular season is one of the all-time great offensive players, even at his age. Who's great in the NBA right now? Is it the Pistons? I don't even think most people could tell me the Pistons are great. The only reason people can tell me the Pistons are great is because they look at the record. I don't think that many people watch Detroit Pistons basketball, and that's a shame. That is unfair to them. because Cade Cunningham is not yet transitioned into like a superstar as far as popularity, and Jalen Duren, who is not like the Pistons' most notable player, I'm not even joking, is probably Isaiah Stewart, because we see him get in fights 1 to 2 times a season. It's like they're Draymond Green. He's probably more popular or more well-known than almost everybody else on that team to a common or average basketball fan. And that's wrong. That's a shame. They have a great team. They play great defense. You see what they're doing. But the only way people know they're great is because they're the number 1 seed. The Celtics have also been great. And the Celtics obviously have bigger names. But the Celtics' biggest storyline of the season has not been, look how great they're playing. The biggest storyline of the season is Jason Tatum really going to come back less than a year after his injury? Oh my gosh. And I think he might play. And I don't think the Celtics are as great as, in terms of if they had to actually play in a series. I don't think they could beat the Pistons. I don't think they could beat the Spurs. I don't think they could beat the Nuggets. I don't know if they could beat the Rockets, if I'm being honest. I still really like the Rockets roster, even though they've had issues obviously last month and a half. So I got tanking teams. I have teams that I think are more reputation than substance. I have teams that people aren't watching. I have teams that have all the assets, have all the skills, but you still see them struggling. Like, I don't know. And that's really where I came down to, is like, I don't know who I'm supposed to crown as great in the NBA. It's like, I needed more time. And it's half the season's already over. Half the season. Bro, teams have been tanking for well over a month. Jokic missed a significant amount of time. Missed multiple weeks. Wemby has missed time. We're going to talk about this. Will's coming up here in a little bit. We'll talk about this with Will. Like the 65-game rule, a lot of these guys have already missed some time. And then I got a team like the Warriors, who I was like, I didn't think the Warriors had a chance necessarily this year, but now you just lost Jimmy Butler. You're trying to still make trades. The Bucks with Giannis, it's all... I think this is a very confusing NBA season, and anybody who, there's a couple de facto answers because we believe in the reputation, the talent, and that's the Thunder, the Nuggets. I think really those two have probably separated themselves in terms of teams we're just supposed to inherently believe in. But I think this has been a really tough NBA season to actually try to get a grasp on and go, oh, this team is great. This team over here, they're elite. This team over here, they're one of the best. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just, and then I owe honesty. I can be wrong, and I can own that. But I owe at least that my opinions are authentic. And authentically right now, I think it's really tough to, like, making power rankings normally easy. You just kind of, you watch the games, you get a sense of feel. Usually teams have an identity if they have a core of players. I couldn't do that right now, though. I'm looking at all these teams and I'm watching. I'm just like, who do I think? And I was thinking basketball more than any other sport, we get into this of, well, who do I think can actually win a playoff series? And I worry about, I think the Pistons are really, really, really good. I do worry about the Pistons because I do think it is a lack of offense there. And is that going to show up in the postseason? The Knicks, I do worry, if they're not a lot, like this happens with everybody, any player besides last year's SGA, when it comes to, I need to get fouls, I need to get to the free throw line, I worry about you in the playoffs. I worry about the Cavs, James Harden, what's he going to do in the postseason? And so it was a really, I thought it would have been a really, I'll be honest, it would have been a bullshit list. I would not have given a good product or a good video or a good segment or a good list. It would have been ass. Objectively, it would not have been good. Not at all. So I couldn't do it. And so, again, no official power rankings for today, but I at least wanted to have the question of who is actually great in today's NBA in this season. It's tough, man. It's tough. Hey. Hey, man. That's when you want to be online, like, shit just, it's this is what happens when you share Instagram accounts of people. Hey, man, y'all know what time it is. It's another week. My brother Will is joining us, standing in, 5'3", 162 pounds. How we feeling today?
5'3", 160. Puny. I guess.
I feel like we got a different setup today, like different than the normal. You moving some stuff around?
Not really. I'm in the same room. Everything is really in the same spot. I had to move the camera though to like a different to a different monitor.
Okay.
I had to take one of the monitors out. So usually I have it on my left monitor. So today it's on the right one.
Bet.
So right. I'm only operating. I'm operating with one screen right now versus my normal 2 or 3.
I'm weird. I'm on 4, but I'd be doing extra shit. Let's start with this. We're done with football season. Although I do have one football thing for you that I remembered, but we'll do that last. So All-Star game. Funny enough, now I watched literally 0 minutes of it in real time. I don't watch the dunk contest. I don't watch the 3-point contest. I don't watch the Rising Stars. I didn't watch the actual games. I got to the point where like I stopped caring about it because these niggas stopped caring about it. So it's like I'm not gonna waste my time and keep watching something that like y'all don't care to be there. Now I did go back and watch some of it. I watched some of the highlights because there was some positive feedback out of it. Wemby was trying, Ant was pooping. Like some of the old guys were actually giving some effort. They're playing the 12-minute games. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm fine with this. I defended. Now I've shit on Adam Silver a lot this week, but I did defend that the All-Star game. I don't really think he can fix. If the guys just don't care, it's not going to change nothing. Like, do you think there's anything Adam Silver can realistically do? Like this year worked, but I don't think it was because of the format. I think it was just a handful of guys wanted to try harder. Like, does Adam Silver really have a way to quote-unquote fix All-Star Weekend? Or is that just up to the players?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think as the commissioner, you got to try to maybe implement new ways to kind of breed competition. But I think it's definitely on the players to play hard too. So I think part of it, and I don't even know, like I seen some of it, but I don't know what the actual new format is, like what the scoring system and all of that stuff. Like I seen the teams part,
and one European team.
Yeah, so it's like
and I guess games 12.
To 12?
Well, 12-minute games. So basically, you basically run a quarter with your team versus another team.
Gotcha. So yeah, no, I think from what I've seen, especially like scoring wise, I think maybe doing it that way, it kind of helps it be more competitive from top to bottom. I mean, from start to finish, I should say. But I mean, I definitely think it's still on the players too. So when you got players like Wemby who is going out there and trying to compete, and you got players like Ant who going out there and trying to compete, I think the players play a big part of it, and I think some of it is maybe some of these older players kind of, you know, as they're gonna be making their way out, it's gonna be up to these younger guys to kind of make it competitive again. And I think for the most part, these younger guys, this is the social media era of guys, so those are the ones that seeing everything, all the comments and everything about it not being competitive and maybe trying to do something about it. Not saying, you know, I'm sure LeBron see it, we know KD see everything that's going on online and things like that, but they don't necessarily care because they accomplished.
No, that's a fact. KD had an interesting weekend, to say the least, but he did say something I think was valid, and I'm a huge Jokic fan, but Jokic don't give a rip about the All-Star game. He couldn't be bothered to barely jog up the fucking floor. And KD brought up a good point where he's like, look, man, you're yelling at me, you're yelling at Bron, yelling at Steph, and be like, why don't you guys take the All-Star game seriously? He's like, look at all the top European dudes. Like, they don't take it seriously. Luka isn't out there trying. No, Jokic ain't out there. And he's like, and they're younger than us. When this shit started to, go really, really bad, now they've all played forever, but they were on the other side of 30. It's like, it's always going to be up to, the young guys. And when Luka and Jokic were young, they didn't give a fuck. So, and Giannis really only cared, 1 year, and then after that, he was like, all right, well, nobody else cares. I'm going to stop caring, too. Adam Silver right now is probably in as bad of a reputation as it's been since he took over. If obviously the All-Star game was one of the issues, if you're Adam Silver, how do you handle a quarter's probably a little too high, but it feels like it. Like a quarter of the team's tanking, actively trying to lose. There's been talks about doing something with the lottery. Like, if you're Adam Silver, what is possible to do with just a handful of teams not actively trying to lose? Like, how would you handle that?
I mean, I think we did. Was this last week when we talked about it some? On the
we did a little bit.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think maybe restructuring the lottery. I think we talked about maybe the worst teams getting the worst, getting that top pick or something like that. Like just I don't know. It's hard to say what the correct answer is when it comes to the NBA. Because like I mean, I even talked about like lottery picks being like 1 through 14. Like the 14th guy in a lottery pick. Like yeah, you're a lottery pick, but it's not like you ain't a top three. Like when you talk about those top 3 to 5 guys or whatever, it's such a huge gap in like the talent level between those guys and like the guys later in the lottery also. I don't know. I don't know the best way to fix it. I think some of the stuff we talked about, like I said, maybe giving the worst teams those top picks essentially, instead of making it. If you one of the 5 or 6 worst teams, you got like these high ass odds.
Would you be open to just disbanding the lottery and just go straight up like, all right, worst record, first pick, second worst record, like how they do in NFL and Major League Baseball?
I mean, yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. Even I mean, and even if they decided to do something like maybe the maybe top 6 or 7 or 8 teams or something like that. Those teams get picks based on the record, and everybody else is in the lottery.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, so like the top 5 or 6 are still going to for sure get like the best guys, and then like that lower half of the lottery, there's like, all right, y'all can kind of, you might be able
Y'all
to
can
rise
go.
from like pick
Y'all can
14
go
to
into
10.
y'all could go into the lottery based on like at that point it's like y'all go into the lottery and it's not even everybody got the same odds. So now it don't incentivize you to be the 7th worst team in the league because now you got the same odds to get a top. I mean, a pick maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 or something like that. You got the same odds to get that pick as the team who just won a championship or something.
Yeah. The
I mean,
I do think it's
it's
funny
about
that
trying to get creative.
no, 1,000%. I did think it was funny that supposedly this got leaked that supposedly the Thunder were one of the teams because Utah only keeps their pick if it's in the top 8, so it's top 8 protected, and so obviously they're trying to be as bad as possible because they want to keep the first round pick, and OKC supposedly has been complaining about that. But it's funny because OKC before this run, they were the tanking team. Like the first year they had SGA. I think it was the second year they had SGA. SGA just, funny enough, had 21 of his last 30 games were DNP his second year with the Thunder. And it was like, and that was the year they got checked. So I'm like, y'all, and that's why I kind of feel bad for Utah fans. I'm like, everybody's focused on Utah right now. But I'm like, a lot of these teams that are great right now, like the Spurs were terrible for years, and you can't name 5 guys from that run at like the end of Pop's run. Like you can't name 5 guys who were on that roster. They were putting out those lineups that you see on Twitter every couple years, and it's like, damn, these niggas started who? The Thunder were doing that. The Pistons had that. So like all these teams that are great right now, they all were kind of tanking at one point. So it's not the Jazz fault. They're just kind of going with the system.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, probably getting rid of protected picks is probably a thing too. Like if you do away with those, because like now, like if you trade me, if you trade me a pick and you say and I give you a player in return, or whatever I give you in return, like I don't this pick don't need to be protected. Like I don't want it to be protected if it's in the lottery or something like that. Like you gave me the pick for the player, like, and now it's going to incentivize you to tank because you want to keep the pick.
Yeah, you get the pick and the player, and so it's like you win that trade by being worse that season.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, and again, these are a lot of stuff Adam Silver was getting asked, and Adam did not have a great press conference. Again, some of these things I do feel it's unfortunate because I also don't think, like, David Stern was a great commissioner. I don't think David Stern had a perfect run, but I think he is kind of highlighted as almost a perfect commissioner in comparison. And again, Adam's press conference during the All-Star weekend was not the best. Another one of the things he didn't really decline to comment on is the 65-game rule. So LeBron's not going to be an All-NBA guy this year. He's just already missed too many games. Jokic is a game away, and he won't be an All-NBA, and Shea can only miss like 4 more games before he's All-NBA, and Steph has also already missed 13 games this year. Then the rule was meant so that like load managing, you couldn't quote unquote like load manage your way to an all NBA, and the guys had incentives in their contracts. I think it's the wrong spirit of the rule. Like Jokic had someone run into his knee, he missed 2 to 3 weeks, and then he came back, and he's been basically playing 40 minutes a night every single night. Should there be some reconsideration, or even Adam Silver just kind of stepping in and say, hey, I'm making the executive call right now, like this ain't what the rule is designed to. So if Jokic finished the season as clearly an MVP level player, but he's at 63 games, he's still eligible for first team All NBA. And same with SGA and Curry and all these guys.
So I'm not. Let me see. So I'm not. I'm not opposed. Like I don't hate the game minimum. Like I don't dislike there being a game minimum. Now I'm not saying that it should be 62 games. I don't know what that number is, but I do think like if you don't play a certain percentage of the games, like I'm not upset at somebody who was more available than you getting a head nod to make these all NBA teams and things like that, because I think one of the most popular things in sports is the best ability being availability. And like I said, I'm not saying that 62 games is the right number, and I don't know what that number is, but I'm not necessarily mad at rewarding the players that are available. And and like you said, some of this stuff is uncontrollable, so like you can't control injuries, and it was originally put in place for load management purposes, but I think also like if you injured half the season, but your half of the season was great, I don't know that. I don't know that you deserve to get it over somebody who played the whole season and also had a really good season.
So I agree with that. I guess and again, I agreed with the like spirit of the rule initially. And so I think we should let that, and maybe this, again, no matter what system you use, you can always complain or nitpick a system, right? So I think if a guy is, let's say he's playing at an MVP level, but he clearly has only played like half the season or 50 games, I think automatically the voters should just kind of be able to go, okay, yeah, you were obviously great, but you just have not played enough games where I can give you like MVP first team All NBA, right? An easy example is 23-24 Joel Embiid. He averaged 34.7 points a game, was going crazy, high field goal percentage, but he only played 39 games. And nobody would have realistically looked at you and been like, we all acknowledged he was a great player, he was busting everybody's ass, but you were available literally less than half the games. Like, you just not going to make it strictly off that. So meaning a dude who, I don't know what the first All NBA was that year, but like, I'll use Jokic and Giannis because I'm just assuming they were. Them obviously having comparable numbers, but they're in the high 60s, 70s games played. Okay, that's clearly more valuable than as great as Embiid was, only getting in 39 games. The 65-game rule, again, I kind of hope, now I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Adam Silver right now, and we're going to get to that in a second too, is I do kind of hope he just comes out and makes an exception and goes, hey, look, this wasn't the spirit of the rule. Like, if SGA and Jokic finish rounds, and I think Steph too, finish around 60, 64 games, he just comes out and says, look, man, they eligible. Like, it's not, they missed specifically like one period of time because they were injured. I'm not saying, because then you're going to have some whack-ass All-NBA teams. Like, you were just going to have dudes who, like Dylan Brooks was going to be an eligible All-NBA guy.
But I guess
because he got to 66 games instead of 63.
Like, I guess, like, what does that mean to fans, though?
So an average fan, I don't think it means much. I think if you are, I'll use myself for an example. If you're one of those guys that, like, when you sit there and, like, look at the history of the sport, and I don't really care about All-Stars or Pro Bowls because those get funny. Like, we talked about this last week. I'm like, Kareem was an All-Star at the end of his career, averaging 9 points a game. But it was Kareem, so you gave it to him for, like, a Lifetime Achievement Award, right? Kobe made All-Stars at the end of his career when he really shouldn't have been. And LeBron, who's been good, but even if LeBron should be an All-Star every year until he retires. Like, some of those guys are just, you are icons, legends, cool. The All-NBA stuff, like, to me, it does mean something when you got a guy who is, like LeBron having 13 or 15 consecutive All-NBAs. Like, that's an impressive part of his resume. Jordan having 11 straight All-NBAs. Like, that stuff means something to people like me that take this shit way too seriously. And I think I don't want to look at what's the easy way to say this? If you look at like the best players of an era, right? So like you go to the 2000s, you're going to see a bunch of Shaq All-NBAs, you're going to see a bunch of Duncan All-NBAs, a bunch of Kobe All-NBAs, LeBron. Like you're going to realize, okay, these were the best players of that decade. If I then, because dudes start only putting 60 to 63 games because they get that one injury a year, and it's like, am I supposed to believe Jokic is no longer great because he got to 64 games instead of 65 games, and now he's not eligible for All-NBA for 2 or 3 years in a row?
Why would you believe that, though?
With the history of it. You said what?
Or you saying, I said, why would you believe that he was no longer great? Are you saying like people in the future to kind of look at that?
No, people in the future would. Because if you just open up the because sometimes all we got to do was open up the history. Like, we all know Wilt because of a bunch of stories and a bunch of numbers. Like, that's Wilt Chamberlain to most of us. Because we didn't watch him play, and for a lot of people, they weren't even alive at the same time as Wilt. So you just got to look at the history books and go, okay, Wilt was, we joke about it, but like, Wilt probably being like, why am I not the greatest player ever? Like, tell me one person who's fucking with me. And so, but you need that context of like, okay, when you go and look at even his All-NBAs, it's him and Bill Russell. And you see the championships for Bill Russell, and you're like, okay, so Wilt has all these stupid-ass numbers that no one's ever going to come close to, but you can respect and you understand who Bill Russell was because, like, he was the only guy competing with him. He was winning championships, and they were competing for that, back then, only one spot for the All-NBA. So historically telling the league, I think the All-NBA matters. Again, All-Stars and Pro Bowls, that's a little different because, again, I think you should get some Lifetime Achievement All-Stars because you've been an all-time player. But the All-NBAs and All-Pros, to me, I view those differently. And again, I'm obsessive about it. So when I want to tell the story of the NBA, it's why as much as I like somebody like Tracy McGrady, and it's like, oh, if you watch T-Mac, you're like, oh, yeah, he one of the best out there. It's like, but you weren't getting All-NBAs over Kobe. You weren't getting All-NBAs over D-Wade. You weren't getting All-NBAs over young Bron. Like, that kind of lets me know where you were in the pecking order just looking at the history books.
So, like, and I guess essentially, so you saying, are you, from your perspective, should it not be a game limit? Or if you're okay with it being a game limit, what do you think it should be?
So that's my problem. My problem is you're going to still have issues, but I want really strong, like I want really confident voters and really competent voters. Meaning that season Embiid had, and this is the easy one to highlight, I'm not giving you all NBA off 39 games. Okay, then you obviously could say, all right, now you got to go into the, okay, what if you do that for 50 games? It's like 50 games, I'm still probably not right there if the contemporary, because it's going to matter on a year-by-year basis. Like we talked about the play-in last week, right? If you are the 7th seed, or you're the 8th seed, but the 9 seed you up 10 games on, we shouldn't have a game. Like I just was clearly better than you. I deserve to be in the playoffs. But maybe one year it's 8 seed is only a game up on the 9 seed. It's like, okay, that makes more sense. So if Jokic at 61 games averages normal Jokic stat line, almost 30, the triple doubles, all that shit. And then the next contemporary as a center is, I don't even know who would be second team All-NBA, I guess. Embiid, I don't know if Embiid's going to get enough games. So let's say Embiid is 25-10, and he's actually he's at 75 games. Then you got to start having the conversation of who was more valuable. Is that close enough to say you put in more games and those games were more valuable than the dominant performance of Jokic? And again, you're going to have years where somebody gets screwed, but you're always going to have years where somebody gets screwed. Like, you're always going to have a year where we feel like, damn, like, oh, you should have won an MVP or you should have had this, like, you should have been first team. So it's never going to be perfect. So
you saying, and I guess I'm asking, like, so you don't think it should be like a game minimum?
No, I don't. I get the spirit of the rule. Like, again, and it's weird because, like, you don't even got to have – the NFL just said Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft aren't Hall of Famers. Those voters didn't have any context or didn't have any criteria that says they're not clearly first ballot Hall of Famers. they use their own opinions, and they're like, hey, for whatever the reason is, whether it's you feel like he cheated, you feel like he was an asshole, et cetera, like they used a thought process outside of the rules to vote. So I believe the NBA voter, really any voter, like you can use your own thought process to still get where you need to go. You don't just have to have some concrete rule that says, okay, dude play 65 games, he eligible. Because it's not like you need a concrete rule for, oh, a nigga played 82 games. Like Mikal Bridges is right. He's on like the fucking 600 game streak, whatever the fuck it is. Like played every fucking game since high school. Ain't nobody considering Mikal Bridges for an all NBA team. Like he a good player. We like him. He is solid at what he does, but you can't play enough games to prove value. We still know who you are. So if you can have that context, it's like, all right, I can also then have that. I can still use that same kind of context when it comes to like the high end guys. I guess that's the best way I can. That's the best way I got it.
Like I mean, and I'm not like, yeah, no, I think I could definitely see it going either way. Like I'm not, like I'm not against it being like a game limit, but I'm also like, because like I understand the point of like maybe players who aren't maybe all NBA worthy players making some of these all NBA teams because the stars are unavailable for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. And that's
but I guess it's like, do you care about load management? And if you care about if you care about load management, do you think taking that game minimum away is going to encourage more teams to load manage?
My opinion is I don't realistically think it's stopping teams. The same way I don't think the fines are going to stop the Jazz. The Jazz and Pacers got fined over $500,000 for tanking, right? Now you fine me $500,000, I'm running to Mexico. You find these niggas $500,000, they don't give a fuck, they're going to keep doing what they're going to do. And so for teams that want to load manage their player, like I don't think Kawhi is kind of the poster child of it. I don't think Kawhi gives a damn. Or the Clippers give a damn if he were to be not an all-NBA guy because they load managed him for 30 games because they wanted 50 games regular season and then healthy Kawhi in the postseason. I think it's kind of one of those things of, oh, we gonna make this rule. We want to show that we're serious about this rule, but the teams are only going to care as much as they want to care. And so if they want to load manage their guy, like the Sixers, we talked about this before. If the Sixers get to the playoffs and they got Maxi's hooping and Edgecomb's hooping and Embiid is healthy for the first time in years, they don't give a damn about him making all-NBA team, even though he's been playing really well while he's been out there. They just want him healthy in the playoffs for once. I guess the 1 year he was against, and that was the year Kawhi gamed him, but all-time run.
Yeah, it get tricky. Like it ain't like this. You know, I think it definitely get tricky because I mean, like you said, you want to have competent voters and like what's competence and like what's the criteria that they voting on. So it's kind of like even if you wanted to like set a criteria in place to say this is the criteria for all NBA, like does that not have a minimum amount of games played like as a part of the criteria, like as far as them being available?
That's where you'd have to, the competent part again, if it depends how close, again, you think the competition is. So, again, if Embiid and Jokic are both vying for first-team All-NBA center, and there's a 20-game discrepancy, okay, that makes it a little bit easier. Is there a 10-game discrepancy? It's like, how great were their seasons outside of those 10 games? Like, I need the voters to be able to kind of have that kind of discrepancy and thought process. Obviously, if you just, like,
But I guess it's like, would you want them to have, like I guess, is it do you want them to have, like, do you want to expect them to be as logical as you are, or would you want to say this is the criteria and let's go off the criteria, or would you want to say use maybe logic and common sense to come to an answer?
I would want logic and common sense. What year did the Warriors win 73 games?
Mm-hmm.
That was 16, right? The 16 was the year they won 73. Okay. I don't know this for a fact, but let's say their record is 60-4 after 64 games, right? And Steph was pretty much unanimously the MVP. Obviously, last year before KD, he was pretty much unanimously the MVP by All-Star break. Like, it was just like, all right, they on an all-time run. Steph is the MVP. If you got to game 64, and I don't think this rule was in effect, and I think it came a few years later. If you went to game 64, Steph is going crazy doing all this shit. Someone runs into Stephanie. Steph is out until the playoffs. Would you not give, like, I'm 60-4. Steph doing what he did that season. I don't remember exactly when he broke the three-point record as far as for a season, but like he was probably pretty damn close by that point. Would you then go, oh, well, he didn't get to 65 games, so he's not the MVP? Like, that would look nuts. It'd be like, obviously he was the MVP. They were the best team. They were on track to be the best team ever, and then someone ran into his knee, and now he's out for 3 weeks.
That's why I said, like, I don't know what the game, like, I'm not mad at it being a game limit, but I don't know that it should be 60 something games, like whatever that number is, because that, to me, that's kind of close to like the finish line.
Yeah.
As far as the season being over.
No, 1,000%. Last thing here before we do get you out, like I said, just one football thing here, and it's just a response to, so yesterday I heard now everybody's doing like, and it's all way too early shit. So it's like way too early power rankings, way too early predictions, and both our teams have something in common, which is they are really easy to take shots at right now because a lot of people, when you look at teams that are most likely to fall off from what they did last year to this year, the Broncos and Bears got one thing in common, and I'm pulling up this article real quick here. So this is Andrew Filipponi, who writes for the Steelers, and I was talking about teams most likely to fall off. He put the Bears 1 and Broncos 2, but basically outlined the same thing, and that was too many come from behind wins, too lucky. The Bears set an NFL record. They were behind. They won 6 games in which they were behind with 2 minutes to go or less in the fourth quarter, which is the most all-time in NFL history. And the Broncos, excuse me, during their 11-game win streak, 10 of which they had to win from coming behind, essentially saying, look, you're not going to get that lucky next year. I had a semi-similar stance on the Chiefs the year they were winning a bunch of games. I think it was slightly different because of how it played out. But my thing with the Broncos and Bears, and I also put the Commanders in this boat, when you got young quarterbacks and you get your team to start having confidence they go win that games, I don't care if, yes, you can't technically win like that forever, but the Bears having belief that it's like, check the playoff game. They stayed in that playoff game against a team that I think was better than them because they're like, man, if we just get this bitch to like close in the fourth quarter, Caleb's going to do something. We don't know what the fuck the first half going to look like, but he going to do something in the fourth quarter. And he did. He had 2 great throws, got him to overtime. And I think the same thing with the Broncos and Bo. It was like, man, look, quarters 1 through 3 might look ugly, but if we keep this bitch close, we have confidence versus if you have a team where you just see a young quarterback and they lose those kind of games, you can't build that confidence, and teams learn how to win. How would you respond to people saying the Bears are going to come back down to earth because you're not going to have as many comeback wins as last year?
It's all based on whether they like you or not. Like, if they don't like you, being clutch is called luck. When they like you, it's called being clutch.
That's a fact. That's a bar. Yeah, that's a bar.
when they like you, it's clutch. When they don't like you, it's luck. That's like, what else? What else is it? Like, how many times do you have to do something for it to no longer be considered luck? Like, how long is it considered lucky? Like, is it luck after the first time or the 5th time or the 7th time or the 8th time? Like how many times does it, like, at what point is it no longer luck?
Nah, I brought that
like when you look at somebody like shooting like a Steph, like, of course, like, we got a large sample size of like Steph Curry, but like hitting half-court shots, hitting, like, you know, these shots from, like, at what point is it no longer luck? Like, at what shot did y'all say, oh no, this ain't luck, this is what he do? Like,
no, it's a fact.
Like, what number did that get to? And we talked about it during the season too. Like the Bears had X amount of come from behind victories, but they came from behind in almost every game. Like, they didn't win them all, but like the comebacks happened in damn near every game. Even some of the ones that they lost, it just, like, even when you talk about the Rams game, like, that was a game where the Bears, even though that wasn't a come from behind, well, I think that was a pretty close game or whatever, but. It was a couple of games where they came from behind and just fell short. So it's like, which part is the luck? Like, coming from behind when you do it, if you've done it 10, 11, 12 games out of the season.
That's where I said, like, to close it out is like the Giants had the difference to me was like if you go look at the Giants had back-to-back weeks. They come back against the Chargers and they beat the Eagles. And if the Giants had continued that momentum, because the next week they played Denver, and obviously the Giants got up on Denver, and that became Denver's first big comeback. If the Giants had continued that run, then it's no longer luck. It happens once or twice, fine, I'll give that to you. You got a fluky game. If Denver had only done that to the Giants and the rest of the season they were just 500, cool, I'll give it to you. Giants game was lucky. But if, to what you just said, if I do it once, twice, okay, now it's 3, 4, 5, 6, like at some point, is Mahomes lucky or is he clutch? Well, we all acknowledge he clutch.
Like, is that just a part of what I do?
Absolutely. Is Brady just the luckiest guy ever? Is he the clutchest quarterback to ever walk the planet? 7 rings, man. Like,
it depends on whether they love you or not.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate you as always, bro. Don't forget you can check Will out. Group Chat Podcast, 3:30 Pacific Standard Time every single Wednesday. Appreciate you, bro. We'll catch you next week.
For sure.
Hey, man, appreciate Will. A lot of great things talked about in today's episode. A lot of interesting points. Excuse me. We didn't get to touch a bunch of baseball stuff. Again, pitchers and catchers. I wanted to give just my own personal shout out to Mike Trout yesterday. Shout out to Justin Verlander as well, who's entering his 21st season, 22nd season, something crazy like that. And I sent a video to Tony and Will, and it's the Paul Skeens. It's like the four stances of his pitches, right? And so it's like what it looks like when a fastball comes at you, a changeup, a slider, and a curve. I think we're the four. Don't quote me. And I was just like, this is why hitting a baseball is literally the hardest thing to do in sports, and it's not particularly close. It's not. I just don't know how humans react to it. I think a lot of, and this is not to take away from what they do, but I just believe like there's gotta be luck, man. Not luck. Guessing is the correct term, because you see it and you're like, there's no way you can actually react to this. Like he throws an 88 mile, changeup was one of them. Yeah, an 88 mile an hour changeup. And Tony and I started discussing like who has the best stuff like we've ever seen. And if it's just a stuff thing, Paul Skeens' stuff is young Felix Hernandez, Matt Harvey when he first broke in, like he was throwing crazy. Verlander, obviously, he was throwing 100 in like the 8th inning, which was insane. Like Verlander used to throw harder later in innings. And I forget who my last one was. I think it was I know Harvey, Hernandez. Let's see here. Yeah, Felix. Okay, so I just had those four. So Felix, again, young Felix Hernandez in Seattle was nasty. Verlander, nasty, and Matt Harvey. We also talked about a couple other guys who had great stuff, but it was more of a control thing, like Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay were big fans of. But they were guys who they could just dot you. Like they were painters of the highest level. It was incredible what they did in their career. Rest in peace to Roy Halladay. It was funny, he asked me, like, does he have better stuff than Halladay? And I was like, Doc or Roy? He's like, good point. And so, but yeah, no, Paul Skeens is hitting a baseball is just insane. And Paul Skeens being as great as he's been early in his career, he's going to make a great Dodger in a few years. And I don't blame him or begrudge him. And it's the best thing for him and the best thing for baseball. He doesn't need to just stay in Pittsburgh where they're not going to commit to trying to build any kind of contender or competitive team. That's coming from a Rays fan. So just keep that in mind. Appreciate everybody who came through. Appreciate everybody who listens on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate everybody who checks out the YouTube, the shorts, the TikToks, the Twitter engagements. Appreciate you all as always.